Let's now use what we have been learning about, our inverse trig, and use that to solve or find some information related to right triangles. So, referring to right triangle, we're going to remember that the inverse tangent we could actually define as the following. So again, remember our output from the inverse trig functions, inverse tangent, inverse sine, inverse cosine, the output is always an angle. So we'd have an angle is equal to the inverse sine, and remember, when we're dealing with sine, we can think of sine as on a right triangle as the opposite over the hypotenuse. So the angle theta is going to be the inverse sine of the opposite over hypotenuse when I'm dealing with right triangles. Similarly, theta would be the inverse cosine of the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So again, using right triangles, if I know the adjacent over the hypotenuse, if I do the inverse cosine, that'll give me the angle that I'm looking for. Inverse tangent would be opposite over adjacent, and again, that's what would produce the angle. So if I know the opposite and the adjacent, I can do the inverse tangent, and that would produce the angle. So let's take a look at an example. Suppose I have this triangle. I have a 6, 8, 10 triangle, and I'd like to find angles A and B in the triangle. So I'm going to find angle A first. So one of the things I might notice in angle A is that I could talk about the sine. So sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse, so the sine of A would actually be 6 over 10. Well, since sine is 6 over 10, sine of A would be 6 over 10, that tells me using my inverse notation that A, the angle itself, would be the inverse sine of 6 over 10. And this is not a special value, so I'd have to put this in my calculator. And the inverse sine of 6 over 10 would give me approximately 36.9 degrees. Now the nice part is, once I know this, even though it's a little bit of rounding, I could actually figure out what angle B is without doing any inverse trig, because I know that my angles have to add up to 180 degrees. And so if I do that, what I learn is that my angle B would have to be approximately 53.1 degrees.